Well, in the many the Ohio State games that you call for Fox with Gus, Joel Klatt, including the ones that break my heart, did you ever hear the concept of Justin Fields last in, first out? This is a problem.
Never.
This is never, right?
Never. And to give you some context, I don't just call a lot of Ohio. I called 10 of his games in the last 2 years.
Right.
And I never once heard it. I was also there when he first stepped on campus. I flew out to Columbus just to watch him practice in person because I knew I would be covering a lot of his games. And I stood with Ryan Day at the time and Mike Yurcich, who has since moved on, who was the quarterback coach, former offensive coordinator at Oklahoma State. I've talked about Justin Field ad nauseum with these guys, and never one time, whether it was Mick Moriarty, the strength coach, Ryan Day, Mike Yurcich, any of his coaches, never one time ever did anyone even hint at that being an issue. So when I heard that, I was dumbfounded. I think it's a totally false narrative, and I think it's a dangerous narrative to perpetuate. Hopefully that's not the case anymore, as most of us who are in the know have come out and said the truth. But I also want to break the narrative of what Fields is as a player on the field. So many people are like, well, he's one of these Ohio State quarterbacks. Rich, I gave you the percentage of air production, right? 72% of his production was through the air. He was attacking down the field. He's accurate down the field. He did that, by the way, without throwing interceptions to a great degree. Remember, he played basically the whole season, 40 touchdowns, 1 interception leading into the semifinal game against Clemson 2 years ago. It was so different than Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins, barely 50% of his production came through the air. He was reliant on Paris Campbell and Terry McLaurin and these guys to create after the catch. Okay, so he was 41st, I believe, in the Power 5 in his production, passing production coming through the air. Justin Fields was number 1. Far different players. I think they were utilized in a different way, and I don't think that they're similar at all.
Yeah, and just to put a button on this, coaches would say to you, and you can't, because I'm sure people would be, yeah, of course the coaches aren't going to denigrate their guy. They wouldn't denigrate their guy to you. They would say something along the lines of, yeah, there's been a couple times where we have to work on, him, getting in the film room. There's a couple times where we need to work on him, getting there, showing up and being one of the first. But, it's not all the time, but we're working on that. Like, that's the way they would say something to you before a game, right? Over 10 times.
That's exactly right. And in fact, and I have had it put to me this verbatim, not about Fields, but about other players.
Right.
Is he's learning how to become a better worker.
That's right.
That is the universal code, right? And it's just like everyone nods, and we know what that means.
Right.
And again, I never sniffed that comment whatsoever. And just to put a button on this, not that you want to just talk about Fields.
No, it's all right.
The only reason the entire conference played football was because of his leadership. If you're a last in, first out, you don't fight that hard to get on the field like he did for the Big Ten last fall.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.